First Kung Fu Panda movie came out almost 2 decades ago. It's safe to say Po's body's seen a lot of damage, constant Kung Fu stunt work, dumplings and cookies. He's not as fast as he used to be, so we're going to give Po some upgrades today. Let's Cyborg this panda. First, I'll bend some aluminum wire into what I imagine a classic chi gathering pose looks like. A wired LED will run along the skeletal frame for some future cyborg tech. Then it's time for some bulk building action with aluminum foil, saving our precious clay for the detailed parts later on. The mass of aluminum foil gets tightened up even more with some masking tape and some scrap copper wire. For the polymer clay base layer, I want to free up both hands so Po will get mounted on a stack of foam boards so that we can work on the feet and the legs without any clearance issues. I'm pressing on a base layer of polymer clay, covering up all that aluminum foil and shaping it snugly around our panda form. Then I'm slicing, molding, and building up the basic shapes of Po's face. At this point, he looks more like a Tim Burton nightmare than a Kung Fu Panda. So I'll just keep molding in those clay blobs, bringing out more character in the cheekbones and the skull shape overall. To begin the cybernetic transformation, Po's left arm gets the special treatment. I'll lay down a black clay base for the tiny machine parts, adding some extra black around that Terminator eye to hopefully tone down the blinding LED light, then carving from his forehead to jaw for the robot skull to peek through. Cybernetic makeover step 2, beefing up the left deltoid where an armored shoulder plate will soon rest. Then starting on the wires and mechanical parts for the robotic tricep-bicep area. I'll carve out the elbow area to expose the robotic skeletal structure underneath. On to Po's spine, where I started out drawing inspiration from Doc Ock, though without robot tentacles, this cybernetic enhancement looks much more like a buzzsaw. Now onto the shoulder plate, the main section of this robotic arm. We'll mold it into some sleek, angled sections to give it an armored alloy look, similar to Cyborg from the DC universe. Let's dive into the meticulous process of fur patterning. I'm strategically outlining zones where black and white fur meet, beginning with a base of black fur around the shoulders and neck. I'll gradually layer on the white atop his head and facial features. Continuing on, I'll add layers of white, shaping a fierce snarl onto Panda Po's face to capture that iconic expression. I'm focusing on defining his facial features, covering the eyes and adding temporary ears for a sneak peek at the final look. Moving on, shifting attention to the belly, applying white clay and sculpting around his protruding spine to bring this cyborg panda to life. Next, I'm installing Po's non-robotic eyeball. Or should I say, attempting to. Finally got it. Yep, totally normal looking and not at all creepy eyeball. Now that the dental tools are out, it's fur texture time. I'm adding fur detail around the facial features and a little Dennis the Menace there on top. And then we're heading down the back of Po's neck, giving the black clay patches the same furry texture. And let's not forget about that belly, round, furry, and full of dumplings. Time to give Po some digits so he can properly operate chopsticks. I'll shape some clay around his hands, adding pads to his fingers and his palms. Next, Po is moving back to his permanent base to save those precious feet from potential disaster. I'll dive into the intricate task of sculpting his lower half now, and soon discover it's no easy feat to get those feet to look like feet. Now that I've managed to sculpt something that look like feet, I'll cover up all that work with some goldenrod colored socks. Po is a socks and sandals type of guy, so I'm cutting in V-shaped straps. Then I'm adding some white wraps around his ankles and his knees. Some final wrap detailing, and then I'll add the base of Po's sandals. Lastly, some toes, panda barely peeking out. Now let's give this panda some pants. And to hold his pants patches together, we'll get some stitches on here. After booping on Po's tail, then it's on to the painting phase. Starting with a base of black, strategically dabbing off the high points to create depth and shadows. Next, a dry brush technique with a mix of gray and metallic silver to create that metallic sheen, followed by highlighting the edges and angles of the shoulder panel. Moving on to the robotic arm, I'll continue with the highlights and lowlights to enhance the mechanical structure. Then onto pants and ankle wraps, aiming for that lived-in look, so a touch of watered down brown for dirt and worn-in color will do the trick. Playing with highlights and lowlights for that perfect balance around the robotic eye. Then onto Po's spine. Next up, refining his whisker spots and giving his paw pads a weathered look. Adding the last few touches of Po's signature detailing on his pants, and it's on to the reveal. Thanks so much for watching till the end. Completing my first major sculpt has been quite a journey, and I really hope you like the final product as much as I do. I owe a huge thanks to an awesome Skillshare teacher whose classes really kickstarted my clay skills. I'll list my favorite class for beginners down below, and you can check it out with a free trial of Skillshare through that link. Please subscribe and like this video if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you real soon.